Okay, this tutorial is a brief introduction to Elliott wave theory. Elliott wave theory was discovered by Ralph Elliott, and I mean discovery because he thought he didn't create the theory, but his achievement was to unveil the theory inherent in nature. So wave theory basically can explain all cycles and predict targets for the assets analyzed. So there is no theory among economics that can achieve that. Either cannot explain the past behavior or they cannot predict future behavior. Elliott bases his theory in the basic pattern. The basic pattern is an impulse trend. In this case is an uptrend formed of 5 waves. Waves 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So this is an uptrend, and the main concept in the theory is the inherent fractal theory inside the pattern. Many decades before mathematicians, Elliott used the concept of fractal. So as the theory unveils, you can see if you're in a 5-wave pattern, you know that wave 1 will subdivide in 5s because it's in favor of the trend. So wave 3 and 5 the same. You can subdivide those waves that go in favor of the trend in 5 waves, and the waves 2 and 4 that usually correct this behavior will be subdivided in 3 waves. So we can see a complete pattern. As we can see, waves 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 are part of a 1 wave. So we have a big 1 wave, very large, that is subdivided in 5s. So wave 1, 2, 1, 3 and 5 of this pattern is also subdivided in 5, and wave 2 and 4, that are actual corrections inside the first impulse, are divided in 3. So the grade of this correction are minor respect of the wave 2 of a larger degree that we can see on the chart. The main key in wave counting is when you are in a big correction, as we can see in wave 2, when you have the waves labeled A, B and C, waves A and C are in favor of the correction. So as they are in favor of the overall correction, you have to subdivide it in 5 waves. And on wave B, that is a counter trend of the correction inside the correction, you have to subdivide them in 3, so you subdivide ABC. You can see, as we have here an 1-2 movement, that the next movement when wave 2 is complete will be a wave 3 that we should subdivide in 5 wave patterns. So keep in mind the needed 5 subwaves when you are in favor of the turn, and the 3 waves ABC when you are in counter turn. Here we have a perfect sample of the Elliott wave impulses on Nasdaq 100 ETF. Our first pivot is, you can see it at your upper left, the high 55.06. First wave is completed till low 48.65. So there you have a correction up till the max high 52.84. So we get the downtrend again till the third wave in the low 41.61. In wave 4 we have a high of 45.87, and finally the impulse ends at the low 42.01. We have to take into account an Elliott rule that says, the alternance rule that says you have If you have a wave 2, as in this case, that is simple, your wave 4 will be complex. For example, a triangle. This one was a triangle, it was pretty forward, so when we have at the support the breakout, we have our low and the impulse was completed. So now we will use our site's Elliott wave projections calculator to see how we can predict those targets that in the chart we can see. Here we have our Elliott wave projections calculator. Over here we have the retracement ratios, the most probable, and in turquoise we have the pivots we have to enter. So, as in the example, we begin with 55.06 and our first wave is from there to 48.65. Okay. Here we have the extension of the wave 1, 6 more or less, and here we have the up targets for wave 2 taking into account 5-hour wave 1. We have 3 targets, and as we can see, 2 of them are in bold. The targets in bold are the most likely to take place. Our next pivot for wave 2 is 52.84. So our wave 2 is 4 more or less in extension, and as we can see exceeds just a little the higher target of 52.61. So now we have our 2 wave complete, wave 1 and wave 2. We can go and see now we have 4 targets, the ones generated taking into account wave 1 and the ones generated taking into account wave 2. So these are our down targets for wave 3. So as before, the bold ones are the most likely to occur. 42.47 and 46.06 are the most likely. So as the movement took place, we have our next pivot. Our next pivot is 41.61. So with this we have our third wave complete. So our third wave is $11 more or less in extension. We can see that it takes into account the rule that wave 3 has never to be the shortest wave. So how 11 is bigger than 6, we achieve that rule. Now taking into account the next pivot, now we have the targets up for wave 4. In wave 4 usually we have more targets since we can do calculation based on wave 3, wave 2 and the extension between wave 1 and 3. Again, we have bold targets that are the most likely to take place. So as the market continues, we have our next pivot in 45.87. As we can see, it's very close to one of the bold ones based on wave 2. It was 45.80. So we have to take into account the bold ones since are the most likely to take place. Now with the wave 4 pivot in place, we have our projections down to get wave 5. So as before, we have targets based on wave 1 to 2, wave 2 and wave 4. As we can see in here, we have bold ones as well that are the most likely. So the final pivot in this countdown was 41.05. As we can see, we have one of the most likely to occur in the extension 1 to 3 at 40.73. So that was the one nearest to the target. So this is the calculator for Elliott wave projections when they are an impulse. So you have only to go to our site and put in the pivot numbers you have to get your calculations, and take into account this tutorial to know the way that you are calculating those targets in a correct manner.